The cold linoleum floor pressed against my cheek as blood pooled beneath my head. My heart stuttered, skipped, then gave one final, weak thud. Through the haze, I heard them, Robert and Sophia, whispering just outside the kitchen door. "It's finally over," Robert murmured, relief thick in his voice. "The old hag won't be in our way anymore." Sophia's soft laugh followed, intimate and cruel. "We're free now. Just you, me, and the life we deserve." I wanted to scream, to lunge at them, but my body betrayed me. Darkness swallowed everything. Then light, harsh, fluorescent, hospital light. The antiseptic smell hit me first, followed by the steady beep of monitors. My eyes flew open. I was in a hospital bed, IV line taped to my arm, belly still swollen with pregnancy. Across from me sat Sophia, younger than I remembered, her face painted with fake concern. "Don't worry, Olivia," she cooed, reaching for my hand. "I'll take care of you and the baby." Her smile was perfect, practiced, poisonous. My blood turned to ice. I knew this day, this exact moment. 5 years earlier, the day they planned to kill my unborn child. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. Something inside me had already shattered and reformed into steel. This wasn't a dream. This was a second chance, handed to me by whatever cruel or merciful force governed such things. I pulled my hand away slowly, as if weak from pain. "Sophia," I whispered, voice trembling just enough to sell it. "I'm scared. Could you find Robert for me? I don't want to be alone." Her eyes flickered with triumph, a split-second gleam she couldn't hide. She thought I was still the same trusting fool. "Of course, sis," she said sweetly, standing. "I'll be right back with him." The door clicked shut behind her. The moment it did, I ripped the IV from my arm, ignored the sting, and pressed the call button for the nurse. "I need to transfer hospitals," I told the startled nurse who rushed in. "Immediately. My doctor recommended another facility higher-risk pregnancy." I recited the name of a private hospital across town. One Robert didn't control. Money wasn't an issue. I still had access to the joint account he thought I was too stupid to monitor. Within hours, I was wheeled into an ambulance, leaving behind the obstetrician Robert had bribed and the delivery room where my child was meant to die. The new hospital staff was thorough, cautious. They detected the breech position early, scheduled a C-section. When they placed my son in my arms, warm, screaming, alive tears rolled down my face for the first time since waking. Not from weakness, from fury, from promise. I named him William, after my grandfather, the only man who had ever truly protected me. I stared into his tiny, scrunched face and whispered, "They will never touch you. I swear it." Robert and Sophia returned home 2 days later, expecting to comfort a grieving, broken woman. Instead, they found the house empty and quiet. I had arranged for a trusted friend, Sarah, the only person I'd kept in contact with from my old life, to pick me up with William. We were staying in a small apartment I'd rented under her name. Robert's face when he walked through the door was almost comical eyes darting to my now flat stomach, a flash of satisfaction quickly masked by theatrical concern. "Olivia," he said, rushing over, "how are you feeling?" "We were so worried." Sophia hovered behind him, clutching a bouquet of cheap lilies like a prop. "We came as soon as we could," she added, voice dripping sympathy. I sat on the couch, pale and bandaged from surgery, letting them think exhaustion had dulled me. "It was difficult," I said softly, looking down. Robert sat beside me, patting my knee with practiced tenderness. "It's okay if the baby didn't make it," he said, too quickly. "We can always try again." The words hung in the air like smoke. I lifted my eyes to his. "You seem very sure there was no baby." "Robert?" He blinked, recovered fast. "I just mean miscarriages happen. I'm preparing you for the worst." Sophia stepped closer, laying a hand on his shoulder, possessive already. "Exactly. Don't blame yourself. Olivia, these things aren't anyone's fault." Her fingers tightened on him. A silent claim. That night, after they retreated to their separate rooms, still pretending for my benefit, I slipped into Robert's study. I'd watched him over the years, learned his passwords, his habits. His laptop was open, email still logged in. There it was, the chain with Dr. Harlan, the obstetrician. Ensure the breach isn't corrected. Complications are acceptable. Bonus wired. The transfer record from our joint savings $20,000 sat neatly in the bank app. I forwarded everything to an anonymous email I'd created that afternoon, then deleted the sent items. My hands didn't shake. Not once. The next morning, Robert left early for work, kissing Sophia on the cheek in the hallway, thinking I was still asleep. I watched from the crack in my bedroom door as she touched her lips where his had been, smiling to herself. When the house was empty, I packed a single suitcase, not everything, just the essentials and the documents I'd need. Sarah arrived at noon. William slept peacefully in his carrier. "You sure about this?" she asked, glancing around nervously. "More sure than I've ever been about anything," I replied. We left before either of them came home. Robert returned that evening to an empty house and a note on the kitchen counter. "Recovering elsewhere. Need space. Don't worry." He called immediately, voice tight with barely concealed rage. "Olivia, where are you? You shouldn't be alone right now." I let it ring to voicemail. Sophia texted next. "We're so worried. Come home. Let us take care of you." I didn't reply. Let them stew. Let them wonder. That night, in the safety of the apartment, I opened the laptop again and started applying for jobs, the ones I'd turned down years ago, to follow Robert to this city, to support his career, to be the perfect wife. Offers flooded in within days. I accepted the best one, senior marketing director in New York, starting in 6 weeks. Enough time to heal, to plan, to make sure every piece was in place. A week later, Robert showed up at Sarah's door. He'd tracked her down somehow. He looked disheveled, tie askew, eyes bloodshot. "Where is she?" he demanded. Sarah blocked the doorway. "She doesn't want to see you." He tried charm next. "Sarah, please. I'm worried about my wife." Sarah's voice was ice. "Funny. She says you're the reason she almost lost everything." His mask slipped for a second, pure fury, before he forced a smile. "Tell her I love her. Tell her to come home." Sarah shut the door in his face. I watched the security camera feed on my phone as he stood on the stoop, fists clenched, staring at the closed door. Then he pulled out his phone and dialed Sophia. I couldn't hear the words, but I could read his lips. "She's hiding something. We need to find her fast." My son stirred in his bassinet beside me. I reached over, stroking his soft cheek. "They're scared now," I whispered to him. "Good. They should be. Because this time, I wasn't the one bleeding on the floor. This time, I was the one holding the knife." Weeks blurred into careful calculation. I healed in silence, feeding William at 3 a.m., while drafting emails to old colleagues, rebuilding bridges I'd burned to play perfect wife. The New York offer was locked in vice president of marketing. Salary triple what Robert ever earned. I kept the acceptance letter hidden, printed only the rejection version I'd tear up later for their benefit. Robert grew bolder in his panic. He showed up at Sarah's apartment twice more, once with flowers, once with threats muffled through the intercom. "You can't keep my wife from me," he snarled the second time. Sarah recorded it all. I added the files to the growing folder labeled insurance. Sophia, meanwhile, played the grieving friend to perfection in public. She posted tearful tributes to her late husband on social media, tagging Robert in photos of them supporting each other through loss. Comments poured in. "What a good man, taking care of his fallen comrade's widow." I screenshotted every one. Robert's mother called daily, voice sharp with suspicion. "Where are you hiding? A woman belongs with her husband after a miscarriage." I let her rant, then quietly invited her to tea at a cafe near Sarah's place. She arrived in a cloud of judgment, pearls tight at her throat. "You look fine to me," she snapped. "Stop this nonsense and come home." I slid my phone across the table. Volume low, Robert's voice filled the space between us. "Keep the old hag around until Sophia's pregnant. She'll make a decent nanny." His mother's face drained of color. She stared at the screen long after the clip ended. He wouldn't, she whispered. I didn't argue. I just let the words sit there, ugly and undeniable. When she left, she didn't ask me to come home again. That same week, I hired a private investigator, former military police. Discreet, expensive. Within days, he delivered a thick envelope bank records showing Robert siphoning funds into an account under Sophia's maiden name, hotel receipts from nights he'd claimed to be working late, and most damning, encrypted messages recovered from Sophia's old phone. One chain stood out. Robert need the husband gone before the baby's born. Too many questions. Sophia. Already taken care of. Accident report filed. You owe me. I read it twice, stomach turning not from shock, but from the cold clarity of how far they'd gone. William cooed in his swing beside me. I kissed his forehead and whispered, "They won't win this time." Robert threw the party anyway, desperate to lock in his promotion. He rented the grand ballroom at the city's most exclusive hotel, sent embossed invitations boasting, celebrating Sophia's new chapter. Translation: watch me be noble while I parade my mistress. I RSVP'd. Yes. Sarah watched William that night. I dressed carefully black dress, severe, no jewelry, but the simple gold band I still wore for show. Robert greeted guests at the door like a politician. Sophia glued to his side in pale pink silk, hand resting possessively on his arm. They looked perfect. Everyone said so. His commander clapped him on the back. Hayes, you're a credit to the uniform, loyal to your wife, loyal to your men even after they're gone. Robert beamed. Sophia simpered. I stood near the bar, sipping sparkling water, waiting. The speeches began after dessert. Robert took the microphone first, voice rich with false humility. None of this would be possible without my devoted wife, Olivia, who has sacrificed so much for my career. Applause. He turned to me, eyes shining with performance tears. And though we suffered a terrible loss recently, we stand strong together. More applause. Sophia stepped forward next, dabbing at dry eyes. Olivia has been like a sister to me in my grief. I can never repay her kindness. The crowd ate it up. Phones rose to capture the moment. Robert's commander leaned toward his aide. That's the kind of man we need leading the new task force. I felt the room tilt toward them, gravity bending to their lies. Then the lights dimmed for the slideshow, supposedly photos of Sophia's journey. Instead, the massive screen filled with security footage Robert and Sophia in the hotel's audio booth 20 minutes earlier. Her dress hiked up, his hand under it, mouths fused. The sound was crystal clear, her moan. His whispered, "Once we're rid of her. It's just us." Gasps rippled outward like a shockwave. Glasses clinked to tabletops. Someone's phone clattered to the floor. Sophia noticed first. She whipped around, face blotching red. "Turn it off!" she shrieked, lunging toward the control booth. Robert stood frozen, microphone still in hand, smile calcified. I stepped forward slowly, deliberately, until I stood beneath the screen. The footage looped 10 seconds of undeniable proof. Strange choice for a tribute video. I said, voice carrying without effort. The room went dead silent. Sophia spun toward me, finger jabbing. "You did this. You jealous bitch because your baby died." The word died echoed. I tilted my head. Did it? I nodded toward Sarah, who had slipped in through a side door minutes earlier. She walked forward now, William cradled against her shoulder, tiny fist waving. A collective inhale sucked the air from the ballroom. Sophia stumbled back as if slapped. "No," she whispered. "That's impossible." "Dr." Harlan said. She stopped too late. Robert finally moved, crossing the stage in 3 strides to grab her arm hard enough to bruise. "Shut your mouth," he hissed, loud enough for the nearest microphones to catch. Sophia jerked free, eyes wild. "Don't touch me. You promised the kid wouldn't survive." "You paid the doctor." Robert's hand cracked across her face in front of 200 witnesses. The slap echoed like a gunshot. Chaos erupted. Sophia clawed at him, nails raking his cheek. "You used me. You said we'd be together after she was gone." Robert shoved her away, blood beading on his skin. "You crazy whore. I never—" He caught himself, glanced at his commander, whose face had gone stone. Too late. Guests backed away, forming a wide circle around the stage. Phones were out now, recording everything. I stayed where I was, unmoving. Robert's eyes found mine across the wreckage. For the first time, real fear flickered there. He dropped the microphone, it hit the floor with a thud and started toward me, hands raised in placation. "Olivia, baby. This is a misunderstanding. I can explain." His voice cracked on the last word. I smiled, small and sharp. "Can you explain the 20,000 wired to Dr. Harlan? Or the marriage certificate filed the day I went into labor?" I pulled the folded document from my clutch, held it up so the nearest phones could zoom in. "Registered 6 months ago." "Funny, I don't remember signing it." Sophia screamed, launching herself at me this time. Security intercepted her halfway. Robert tried charm next, dropping to one knee right there on the polished stage. I was wrong. I strayed. "But I love you. Think of our son, he needs his father." His voice trembled with rehearsed remorse. A few guests softened, murmuring. I looked down at him, then at William in Sarah's arms. "My son needs a mother who protects him from monsters," I said clearly. "You don't qualify." I turned away. Behind me, I heard his commander's voice cut through the noise like a blade haze. "My office. Tomorrow. 0600. Robert's sob was almost convincing. Almost. As I walked toward the exit, guests parted without a word. No one met my eyes, some from shame at believing him, others from awe at watching a man's carefully built life collapse in under 10 minutes. Sarah fell into step beside me. William reached out a chubby hand and grabbed my finger. I squeezed it gently. Outside. The night air was cold and clean. I breathed it in like freedom. Robert's desperate shout chased us down the marble steps. "Olivia." Wait, I didn't look back. The doors closed behind us, heavy and final. The morning after the ballroom bloodbath, headlines screamed across every local outlet at disgraced officer exposed in shocking affair and attempted cover-up. Robert's face pale, scratched, mid-shout was plastered beside Sophia's tear-streaked mugshot on the front page. By noon, his command had suspended him pending investigation. By evening, the military prosecutor's office announced charges: abuse of authority, bribery, conspiracy to commit fraud. Sophia was arrested separately for suspicion of murder in the death of her first husband. I watched it all from the quiet of my temporary apartment, William asleep against my chest, and felt nothing close to triumph, just a hollow satisfaction, like closing a door on a room full of rot. Reporters camped outside Sarah's building for days. At first, they painted me as the vengeful ex, the bitter woman who staged a public execution. Anonymous sources, Robert's colleagues, Sophia's fake friends fed them lines Olivia was unstable after the miscarriage, obsessed, possibly dangerous. Comment sections overflowed with venom. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The evidence did the talking. The investigator delivered the final pieces recovered texts, proving Robert orchestrated the accidental car crash that killed Sophia's husband. Hospital security footage of Dr. Harlan accepting an envelope from Robert the day before my original due date, and the forged signature on the marriage license that made Sophia the legal Mrs. Hayes while I was still recovering from surgery. I forwarded everything to the prosecutor and to 3 major news outlets simultaneously. Within 48 hours, the narrative flipped. Hashtags shifted from #crazyx to #survivorspeaks. Women shared their own stories of coercion and gaslighting. Robert's commander held a press conference. Voice grave. "We do not tolerate this betrayal of trust in our ranks." Robert's name was stripped from the promotion list, his pension frozen, his reputation incinerated. I moved to New York the following month. William strapped to my chest on the train. 1 suitcase and a laptop, my only possessions. The company put me up in temporary housing until I closed on a small apartment in Brooklyn. Work consumed me long hours, high stakes, but the kind of pressure that felt clean. Colleagues respected boundaries. No one asked why I never mentioned a husband. Jake was the exception. He ran the creative team, quiet, observant, with a dry humor that slipped through in meetings. He'd been through his own divorce years earlier. Wife left him for his best friend. Took half his savings and full custody until he fought back. We recognized the wariness in each other. Coffee turned into late-night brainstorming sessions. Then dinners where William banged plastic spoons on the table while we talked about everything except the past. Jake never pushed. He just showed up grocery runs when I was slammed. Park afternoons so I could breathe. One night, after William was asleep, he kissed me on the doorstep. Soft, asking. I kissed him back and felt something loosen in my chest I hadn't realized was knotted. Robert's trial lasted 3 months. I didn't attend. The prosecutor called me once for clarification on bank records. That was enough. He was convicted on all counts 15 years. No parole for 10. Sophia took a plea, 12 years for manslaughter and conspiracy. From prison, Robert wrote letters. First rage-filled, then bargaining, finally broken. One arrived on thick stationery, handwriting shaky. I have stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Doctors give me months. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I am sorry not for losing everything, but for destroying the only person who ever loved me without condition. Please, Olivia, let me see my son once before I die. I read it twice in the kitchen light. Jake's arm around my waist as he read over my shoulder. I didn't cry. I carried the letter to the balcony, lit a match, watched it curl into ash. Jake didn't ask if I regretted it. He just held me tighter. Sophia was released early for good behavior after 7 years. She showed up at my office building one gray afternoon, thinner, eyes sunken, hair cropped short. Security called up. I told them to let her through. She stood in the lobby clutching a paper coffee cup, trembling. I know you hate me, she started without preamble. I don't blame you. I have nothing. No skills, no family. I thought maybe you'd give me a job. Anything. Janitor, coffee runner. Her voice cracked on the last word. For a moment, I saw the girl I'd once nursed through feigned illness. The one I'd cooked for, comforted, treated like a sister. Then I remembered her hand on Robert's arm the day they thought my child was dead. I stepped closer, close enough to smell the cheap shampoo. You once told me I was nothing but a maid, I said quietly. Now you want to be mine. She flinched. Tears spilled. Please, I'm begging. I looked at her for a long second, then turned away. Security will escort you out, Will. She didn't fight, just dropped the cup in the trash and walked into the rain. 5 years later, William is 8. All knees and curiosity, building elaborate block cities on the living room rug. Jake moved in last year. The ring on my finger is simple platinum, chosen together. We married on a weekday morning at City Hall. William as witness, Sarah as photographer. No speeches, no ballroom, just vows that meant something because we'd both learned what happens when they don't. Robert died in prison 6 months after his diagnosis, alone. The warden sent a form letter. I filed it without opening. Sophia overdosed in a halfway house 2 years after release. The obituary was 3 lines in a local paper. I read it once, felt nothing, turned the page. Tonight, the city is quiet outside our windows, snow falling soft and steady. William is asleep down the hall, clutching the stuffed dinosaur Jake won him at Coney Island. Jake pours 2 glasses of wine and hands me one. You okay? He asks, because he always knows when old shadows drift close. I lean into him, breathing in the warm scent of his sweater. Better than okay, I say. It's true. I carry scars nights I still wake reaching for a child who was never lost. Moments I catch myself scanning crowds for threats that aren't there, but they don't define me anymore. I built a life on the ruins of the old one, stronger because I know exactly how fragile trust can be. William's laughter echoes in the hallway as he talks in his sleep. Jake's hand finds mine, outside. The snow covers everything old and broken, making the world clean again. I lift my glass to the dark window, to the woman I was and the one I became. We made it. I whisper, And for the first time in 2 lifetimes, I believe it.